My name is Celia Kenner. I was born in Lvov, Poland on December 1st, 1935. I was enrolled in a ballet class, and my most exciting dream was to become a ballerina, and I was due to have a ballet recital. On the day of the recital is when the Russian army invaded, and my father was drafted to the Russian army. Mom was just hysterical crying, and I, as a child, walked out to the backyard expecting my friends to soothe me and embrace me and calm me down. But what happened is that they all pulled away from me, did not only not embrace me, but pointed their finger at me. After that, my mother and I and some family members were forced to leave our home and most of our belongings, and we were forced to go to the ghetto. My mother, who was strong, young, and very beautiful, was forced to work in a forced labor camp. This one time that a raid was going to occur the next day, my aunt brought me with them, but the people who offered the hiding place checked us out, and they said that my uncle and aunt and my two cousins were permitted in, but not I. That night, I heard footsteps marching, and as the footsteps came closer to where I was staying, a voice rang out, and the voice said, "Celia, Celia, if you're here, if you can hear me, we won't see you again." It was my aunt and the other members of my family who were hidden. They were discovered by the Germans. They were led most likely to their death. Mom came back another few weeks later, and she said, "I found a place, but now we have to get you out of the ghetto." And she came up with different means of my getting out. Eventually, I did one afternoon mix into the inmates where my mom was walking out, covered me with a blanket. I mixed in with them. I walked out of the ghetto. During the night, sat in a park, I believe. Mom came, found me, and now brought me to this Polish family. After being with them about a year, they saw across the window 2 adults and 2 children, a boy and a girl, and they were publicly hung. My family could no longer keep me. The morning after we said our sad goodbyes, my Polish wonderful mother took me through the back of the house to the barn, and she sat me down and faced me, and she said, "Celia, I love you so much, and I'm so afraid that you may not make it, and you're such a good girl. Would you want to stay here in the barn? You won't be there alone. You will be there with a friend." This friend was my biological mother, and one of us was able to sleep while the other one would make a noise so the rats wouldn't come at us. One of us was able to push the other out of the way when the Germans now came very often looking for hidden Jews. In the early part of my stay with her, I was able to sneak down and get some of the extra food that was soaking in the barrels for the animals. But in time, even I could no longer climb down. And We stayed that way to get food every third day for about a year and a half. We were liberated by Russians. They set up camp in the backyard where I played with my friends, and they slowly nursed us back to health. A word came around from the super that he received a letter from someone addressed to my mother. It was my biological father, who escaped the Russian army, lived under an assumed name in a totally different part of Russia. And when the war was over, he tried to get in touch to see whether his wife and daughter were alive. He is the one that brought out this photo of myself. He had this with him the 5.5 years that he was away. So now by showing me the photo, I build back my life to what it was before the war. And in 1949, on August 27th, we arrived to Boston Harbor in the United States. I started sharing this story, and now I travel with students on the March of the Living. I hope they can see how important it is not only to learn about the Holocaust, but to take the lessons, how different faiths, different colors, people that are not like us, that we need to embrace, support each other, and teach them, as long as we are still here, teach them about what was, because in the very near future, there may not be survivors to tell these stories.